George is going to miss all these. Then they're going to play the Lakers in crypto, I should say, in a game that the Lakers are really going to want to win. And then they finish the season at Phoenix, which regardless of standings, Phoenix is going to treat that game like a tune-up game for the playoffs because they're trying to get reps with KD. So I think you're going to end up in that 5 seed against Phoenix. And that puts you against Denver in the second round, which is a tough one. I actually like their chances against Phoenix. I think you saw some stuff against the Pelicans last night. There's a huge disadvantage when it comes to length, with those tall, lanky types of players and their ability to navigate ball screens and off-ball screens. I think you saw that with the Pelicans as they kept losing shooters. So I actually like them because the Suns do not have a good perimeter defense, and so I think that the Warriors actually match up really well with them. But that Denver one's going to be tough between Jokic just leaning on Draymond and Kevon Looney all game. You saw Jonas Valanciunas have some success on the offensive glass last night just because he's bigger, you know what I mean? And then you have the Aaron Gordon element in terms of size and athleticism. They're just going to have a lot of physical disadvantages against Denver. I'd like them so much more in that matchup if they had Wiggins. And you know what's interesting? He plugged Kuminga into the starting lineup, and Kuminga's actually done an admirable job. But again, I would just feel better if he was coming off the bench in that type of role. And even at this point, if Wiggins did come back, he's such a rhythm player. He's got that line drive type of jump shot that he really has to dial in. It's hard to imagine him coming back and being the same type of player that he was last year when I thought he was the second best player on the team. Yeah, that's a good point. Jason Timpf joining us on 95.7 The Game. He's the host of Hoops Tonight on the Volume Sports Network. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but did you watch the Warrior game last night? Yeah, I just watched it this morning. I was skiing up in the mountains yesterday. Okay. I got to the whole game this morning. All right, give me that raindrop. So let me just ask you this, because there's two schools of thought out here in the Bay. I watched last night's game, and I'm coming out thinking, man, Draymond should have been thrown out last night. I mean, whether it was for the kick in the head that may have been incidental or may not have, to the rollover, to just everything, to the GM having to come. But there's a lot of people in the Bay that say that his reputation actually, hurts him, and he doesn't get any breaks from the official. You watch him from outside. Like, what's your impression on the way Draymond Green's officiated? Well, I think you see this relatively often around the NBA where refs kind of grade on a curve based on your play style. Like, if you're the kind of defender that plays the entire game without being physical, and then suddenly you put your hand on the guy, I think you're more likely to be whistled than if you were being physical from the jump. And I think Draymond, I think that officials have almost kind of embraced the fact that he's going to play that way throughout a game, and I actually think he gets away with a lot more than most players do. But that I admire about him. I think Chris Paul was great at that when he was in his prime, where just like from the opening tip, he's just hacking the heck out of everybody, and it almost sets a tone to where the officials are like, they're just going to have to let some stuff go or there would be no flow to the game. As far as like big picture stuff, like suspensions and stuff, I'm sure he gets graded on the opposite type of curve. I mean, we saw that literally in the 2016 finals. His reputation works against him in those situations. But I actually think on the court, in the flow of games, he gets away with more than you'd probably expect given the type of contact. Jason, help me out. Klay Thompson, we all know, got off to a bad start. The Barkley comments and Klay, to his credit, opened up, about the journey. Then they had a team meeting January and February. He was hot. And I'm trying to tell my partner when I come in here on a daily basis, I'm not a big analytics guy. But now when Klay goes up to shoot the ball, I just feel like it's going in, and I feel like once they get in the series, there's going to be shots that he can drain. Can you share with us, Jason, where you're currently at on Klay Thompson right now as a ball player? I'm higher on Klay Thompson than I've ever been. I think that he's had such an incredibly impressive season from the standpoint of on-ball perimeter initiation, which is something that you never would have thought with Klay over the years. And especially in the stretches when Steph Curry was out, I enjoyed so much when I was covering this team, just the type of surgical half-court stuff Klay Thompson was doing. And it's different. It's not, 17 dribbles, setting up his man on a ball screen. It's all just weaponizing his shooting
to draw multiple defenders and get that initial advantage so the team can capitalize on it. And then in addition to that, just incredible high-level shot making, which we've become accustomed to with Klay throughout his entire career. I actually think he's had an unbelievably impressive season. And you know what's funny is when I think about the Warriors and their playoff potential, everything to me just comes back to Wiggins. Because I'm actually more confident in Jordan Poole in a playoff run now than I was last year. I think he's shown a lot of growth this year. Just this last couple of games, after the nightmare few games he had before that, that shows a certain amount of resilience. And when he's on, he's just unbelievable. Steph Curry was actually going into last year's playoff having a really down year from a shooting perspective and coming off of an injury. That's not the case this year. Draymond Green was not the same physical presence that he was. Like last year, he was dealing with all those back issues. I'm actually more confident in the core of this group than I've ever been. The problem is, once again, because of the Andrew Wiggins loss, and now actually having Gary Payton back makes me more confident in the bench. I think Dante DiVincenzo has been amazing. It just, everything comes back to Wiggins. And again, one of the most underrated parts of that playoff run last year is the simple fact that he gave Luka Doncic hell for an entire series, and then he gave Jason Tatum hell for an entire series. That's a huge part of why they have the trophy, and not having him just fundamentally changes the calculus of the team.
Jason Timpf joining us on 95.7 The Game, the host of Hoops Tonight on the Volume Sports Network. I'm gonna put you on the spot, and I have to do it even without knowing about Wiggins. Who are you picking to come out of the West?
So, it's funny. I've wanted to pick so many different teams. I've wanted to jump on the Lakers if they could put it together, but obviously there's nothing there yet. Maybe they figured it out in the last couple of weeks with LeBron, but that's a long shot. I've wanted to put my faith behind the Warriors, obviously, but without Andrew Wiggins, it's that huge question mark. So as a result, every team in the conference has all these question marks, and I end up just coming back to Denver from the simple standpoint that in terms of their consistency and continuity, their identity as a basketball team, it's more well-established and more dependable right now than any of the other teams. So as much as I hate to pick Denver because I don't really believe in that archetype of team as a championship contender, for instance, throughout NBA history, especially recently, we know you need outstanding rim protection and front court defense to win a title. All you got to do is go back through the last 20, 25 champions, look at their front courts defensively, look who's protecting the rim. So many things point me away from Denver, but there's nobody that has earned that confidence other than them in the conference. And so it's really hard for me to go any other way. I do not trust Memphis in their half-court offense. I do not think they're going to be able to score when things slow down. I think we've seen that enough times this season and into last season in the postseason. So I think it's there for the taking for anybody, but if I had to pick right now, I'm going with Denver.
Jason, I know we just met. I need you to have my back. I'm going to ask you a question. The one answer you cannot say is, I don't care. We had Jeff Van Gundy on last week. I asked him who his MVP was. He gave us reasons, but he said he didn't care. Who is Jason Timpf's MVP?
Okay, I'm going to give you an MVP, but can I also say I don't care?
Oh, my goodness. Go ahead, you did.
Here's the thing, man. The voting pool, the group of voters has turned me off from MVP entirely. I hate the process. I hate the kind of stuff that they consider. They overcomplicate such a simple topic to me. I've always thought of MVP as a three-part process. Who's the best player in the league? Who's the best player on the best team? And who's the most valuable player to their team? And Giannis wins two of those resoundingly. I think he's by far the best player in the league, and he's obviously the best player on the best team. Yeah, Jokic is probably a little bit more valuable to his team, but at the end of the day, I think it's as clear-cut a Giannis MVP season. If you hear down the stretch of the season, you've seen Embiid and his team's success kind of start to fall apart a little bit, which is not entirely his fault. It's just the reality of the way the case works. And Jokic, legit let his foot off the gas for the last month of the season. That's going to hurt anybody's MVP case. Meanwhile, Giannis is peaking. His team looks better. I think he's just a better basketball player. I thought way too often over the years we've overthought that award and gotten away from what it should be, which is just who's the best player in the league. And to me, if I had to vote, I'd be voting for Giannis.
Jason, one of my good friends that we work with, Joseph Spadoni's a big Laker fan. He's listening right now. How serious a threat are the Lakers now that LeBron is back?
They're dead serious if LeBron can get if LeBron and Anthony Davis can maintain some semblance of MVP level play. I mean, here's the thing that's tricky. LeBron actually came back the other day, and I thought he looked fine, especially coming back from being out for a month, and he's generally a rhythm player too. But then you get Anthony Davis, who spent half the game being guarded by Derrick Jones Jr., taking 8 shots. And so they just can't, they're right on the precipice of putting something real together. There's a fundamental, kind of archetype to what they are as a team. Massive front court with LeBron and AD, tons of half-court shot creation with LeBron and all those skilled guards. They've got wings that they can throw at people defensively in Jared Vanderbilt and Troy Brown Jr. and a little bit of Rui Hachimura. They've got a lot of stuff, but once again, I can't jump on that bandwagon until I see it materialize into something. And yes, they've been good since the trade deadline. I think they're 12-7 since the trade deadline. And look, I think they're going to go into Chicago tonight and win. So I'm not saying it's off the table, but if I'm going to actually believe in what a team is capable of, go win some games, man. Go out and beat Chicago, go out and beat Minnesota. And I think if they win those next 2 games, then all of a sudden we can start to evaluate them as a team that's got a real chance, because at that point they'll have the basically the pole position to get the 6th seed. And if they can get the 6th seed, you take out some of that matchup stuff to catch a tough matchup in the first round. You take out the play-in tournament. So I'm not ready to jump on that bandwagon yet, but I do believe in the fundamental construct of the team if they can put everything together.
Jason, great stuff as always, man. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys. See you next time.
All right, that's Jason Timpf.